Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
So I see, Andre, that you are there. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Andre. Thank you. And I can share your presentation if you want. Okay, just as introduction. As introduction for everybody, we are going to speak today about the new European Pact for Skills, and we have a excellent speaker about it, Andre Richier from DigiGrow. Thank you, Andre, for joining us, and we'll put your presentation immediately on the screen. Here it is. So, Andre, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm working in the European Commission, and I had the opportunity already to speak to your group at 2 occasions. So I'm in the Directorate General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship, and Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise, and in the unit of Ulla Engelmann that deal with clusters, advanced technologies, and social economy. So today I will present you the Pact for Skills and the road to the Pact for Skills. I can't see my slides on the screen. Antonio, can you display them?
Sorry, I thought that I was sharing the screen. You are right. No, my mistake. Here they are.
Okay, so yes, thank you very much. And I will let you know when to move from one slide to the other. And thank you very much for operating them for me. So the Pact for Skills is one of the key actions of the European Skills Agenda, which has been adopted on the 1st of July. Initially, it was foreseen to be adopted shortly after the EU Industrial Strategy. The EU Industrial Strategy was adopted on the 10th of March. And the Pact was mentioned already in the Industrial Strategy. The initial date for the adoption of the European Skills Agenda was the 18th of March, but it has been postponed because of the COVID crisis and the need to better assess, of course, the impact not only on the economy, but also on the labor market. Because as you have seen, the lockdown have created a huge, significant unemployment wave, which is now, of course, improving in the context of the recovery, but still the impact will be very significant, at least for this year and most probably next year. So can we move to the next slides? Thank you very much. So this agenda, as I said, is covering 12 flagship, but the biggest one, the one that aims to foster cooperation and to set a framework for anticipating and upskilling and reskilling a large number of people in the European workforce, will take place on the Pact for Skills. So here you have some figures that shows, of course, the challenge that we are confronting. So 50 million low qualified adults in the European Union. 70% of the companies were reporting a lack of skills to empower the investment, especially when it comes to the twin transformation of the digital and green skills. And 15% of business leaders were communicating about upskilling initiative. The COVID crisis has actually accelerated the transformation, especially the digital transformation, and the Green Deal also will bring a lot of opportunities to shift the manufacturing and to shift also the services to more sustainable and environmental friendly activities. Now, please move to the next slide. So how do we want to make it happen? So the Pact for Skills will be regulated by a charter, and we will define key performance indicators because we want to incentivize businesses, organizations of all kinds, also vocational education and training, obviously, to work together and to achieve concrete commitment. The idea is to have a mass reskilling and upskilling effort for the workforce to help people to keep their jobs, to acquire new skills to get new jobs, and when needed, to move from one sector to the other or one job to the other. So it's something where the cooperation dimension will be important. The articulation also with what member states and regions are doing, it will be also extremely important. So to make it happen, we have decided to work on the charter. This charter will be signed by all organizations and partnerships that will join the Pact for Skills. We have started the consultation to prepare the charter. The deadline and the target date for the presentation of the latest version of the charter will be September, because what we expect is a consolidation of all the consultation exercise and decision being taken regarding the launch, definitive launch of the Pact for Skills, which should take place on the 10th of November in Berlin, Germany, under the German presidency. So here you see the importance of coming together, facilitating cooperation, bringing the different key players in a particular domain and ecosystem in particular to cooperate, to define ambitious investment goals and to achieve concrete commitments. The duration of the Pact for Skills will be for the next 5 years, so it will cover the mandate of the current Commission. There will be a midterm evaluation by 2023, and we will of course adapt, taking into account the development on the labor market. The idea with the adoption and the official launch in November will be that there will be a first wave of adhesion and launch of a large-scale multi-stakeholder partnership at that date, but there will be successive waves. So it means that if a sector, if a group of stakeholders feel that they are not ready already by November to join the Pact, there will be, of course, opportunities in 2021 and 2022 to join. So to respect, of course, the challenge that they are facing in their areas, and also in particular the challenge to get together. The other thing that I wanted to mention here, and that's very important, is that we were already, of course, envisaging to launch such a pact prior to the COVID crisis. But the whole COVID crisis, of course, has accelerated the need to work in parallel on many other issues, because you all know that when it comes to the recovery fund and when it comes to future multi-financial financial framework, the decision is still not been taken. So these are also negotiations that will take place during summer, and we cannot at this stage describe precisely all the amount of money and funding that will be available to support this large-scale partnership and to help these ambitious goals and to reach the commitment. So this is, like the charter, something which is running in parallel. And what we aim is that by September, of course, to get all the necessary information, both on the principle of the charter, on the key performance indicators, on the large-scale partnership that could be launched, on the concrete commitment that could be defined, and of course, all the different funding instruments that should be mobilized to implement the Pact. Can we move to the next slide, please? This is the structure of the Pact for Skills. So the goal, definitely, as I said, is upskilling and reskilling a large number of people of working age. There is also this important aspect of supporting and encouraging enterprises to take apprenticeships. there was a European Alliance on Apprenticeship. We will see a slide a little bit later on. But everybody knows, of course, in the current circumstances, that the traineeship, the recruitment process, the apprenticeships are under severe pressure, because these are the things, of course, that not only for financial reasons are made more difficult, but also the lockdowns and the new safety measures at work make it increasingly difficult, especially for young people, to join as apprentices. So we will try to support and reboot the European Alliance and to put it under the umbrella of the Pact to facilitate the opportunity for people to take a traineeship and apprenticeship. And this covers all types of skills. But of course, obviously, there will be a particular focus on green and digital skills. On the top, you can see this large-scale partnership. The idea is to bring together the major players in industrial ecosystem. This ecosystem concept was introduced already in the EU industrial strategy. We have identified 14 of them. We want, of course, close cooperation with public authorities on that, especially also labor employment agencies. And the idea is to focus the investment to upskilling opportunities for employees in the company and also in the whole value and supply chain. Here, the idea is that small and medium-sized enterprise should be able to benefit from the resource, the investment, and the solution being developed by larger players, and benefit from resource, which are learning and training resource which exist. So a greater focus will be on sharing and adopting best practice, coming together to develop ad hoc solution, reducing the cost and of the access of online training in particular, because we will see that online training will increase, of course, significantly in these circumstances. There is also beside this ecosystem, I would say, a sector value chain dimension. There is a strong also national and regional local partnership dimension. So we want to encourage employers, public authority, different stakeholders, and here obviously the clusters and the regions and cities have a major role to play, to come together and to cooperate and to facilitate the upskilling and reskilling, and also in particular the possibility for people to move from one sector to the other, because we have seen that some sectors are of course under severe pressure and we have seen significant jobs being cut, while on the other side there is unmet demand. So we should and we hope through these kinds of partnership to facilitate this transfer and this shift from one sector which is bleeding jobs to another sector which is demanding and recruiting people. Another important element, of course, will be social partner arrangement. So we want to make sure that social dialogue is a key element to facilitate the whole process. And the whole issue of training and upskilling should not be, of course, at the cost of deterioration of social conditions for the workers. On the contrary, linked to the Pact, there is also in the European Skills Agenda the idea of investigating and supporting the concept of individual learning accounts, so to facilitate for people access to a resource and the money to get access to training. And there, of course, obviously, social partner arrangement will be very important. Also for example, trade union to help people to identify their skills need and give advice on what is the best solution for them. There is also room for individual commitment, as I said, in the context of the European Alliance for Apprenticeship and in the context of the Digital Skills and Job Coalition. Individual companies were also making pledges, and this will be, of course, encouraged. So there is no one size fits all. So we try to accommodate with the Pact all different forms of cooperation and commitment to upskilling and reskilling of the workforce. Antonio, can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, and we are not, of course, starting from scratch. When it comes to the cooperation at the level of ecosystem, we will build on a concept which has been introduced in 2016 and which has started to be implemented for the first wave in 2018. So the idea was here a blueprint for sectoral cooperation on skills to target specific sectors. So you see in the first wave there was automotive, maritime technology, space, textile, tourism. The second wave was dealing with additive manufacturing, construction, maritime shipping, steel. The third wave with agriculture, so the bioeconomy, battery for electromobility, so closely linked to automotive, defense technologies, energy related activities and domains, and also microelectronics. There is a fourth wave which is currently being evaluated, and that will start beginning of 2021. Where we have in particular blockchain, software, cybersecurity, social economy, cultural inheritance. So these activities, of course, have enabled players in those sectors to define common vision of the skills need, to identify some new job profiles and new skills requirements. Of course, in the context of the COVID crisis, they are reshaping their and refocusing their efforts, and they have also defined new priorities, and this will be extremely important to help shaping this large-scale partnership, because we are not starting from scratch. There is already a very excellent and good work and cooperation established at this level. However, the limitation, of course, because it was a pilot initiative still at this stage, is that the amount of funding which was available for each of the sectors was somewhat rather limited. So it was 4 million maximum. And the idea was that once the project will be finished, there will be an opportunity to roll out the results by using the European Social Fund. But this still needs to be, of course, implemented and done. So we will enter into a discussion with all these blueprint and all these sectors to see how they can address the bigger, of course, requirements and need that the COVID crisis has generated, and also our new ambition to have much more massive and large-scale upskilling and reskilling of the workforce in support of employment. So the blueprint will be a key element on which we will build this new type of partnership. Can we move to the next slide? The other initiative which also will be renewed and will be reboosted in the context of the Pact is this European Alliance for Apprenticeship. So as I said, we want to mobilize the key players to provide incentive, especially for SMEs, because SMEs, they are those in largest numbers that can provide a huge number of apprenticeship opportunities. So we really want to reboost this European Alliance and to increase the opportunity for apprenticeship, because inevitably we have seen in the last few months, of course, that the number of apprentices has severely declined. So that's also another experience that we will capitalize on. And in the context of the European Alliance, there was already a charter that had been designed and developed. So we will also, again, learn from this experience, learn from the principle of the charter when we build the bigger and the larger charter that will cover the Pact. Please move to the next slide. Thanks. The Digital Skills and Job Coalition is the major initiative supported by the Commission to invite different stakeholders to come together, but also, most importantly, to establish and organize themselves at the national level. So we have 500 members. We have 24 national coalitions in EU member states. And as you see, the diversity of the stakeholders is quite large. There has been a number of pledges made since 2016. So if I'm not mistaken, the number of training which has been facilitated and offered in these circumstances over the period 2016 and 2020 is in excess of 7 million, so it's a quite significant number. And in the context of the crisis, of course, a new call for pledge has been made. So the coalition will be again revamped and further support. There will be opportunities, of course, linked to the new Digital Europe program to get specific resource to target advanced skills need for the workforce, in particular also IT professional. As you know, there is a deficit of IT professional, but here the goal is also mostly to deal with the digital skills of the workforce and also ensure that people have basic skills, because there are still many people who still not have the capacity to work and use digital technologies professionally. So the new call for pledge has been made. The response has been, especially by large IT companies, has been very, very successful. There will be also in the autumn of 2020 a website, a platform that will be made available to provide easy access to best practice learning opportunities and training courses related to digital skills. So that's also another important building block on which we will capitalize for the Pact. The Digital Skills Job Coalition has also a charter, so we will also take into account this aspect, and which means that when we define the metrics and the key performance indicators for the bigger charter, there will be specific KPIs for those organizations that will still also join specifically the Digital Skills Job Coalition and the European Alliance for Apprenticeship. When it will come to the large multi-stakeholder partnership addressing ecosystem, there will be specific also key performance indicators for each ecosystem, because one size fits all will not work. Automotive is completely different to a large extent from tourism, so having the same KPI for each of them will not make much sense. But the key element, of course, will be to reduce the skills gap, the skills mismatch, and the skills shortage by 2025. Can we move to the next slide? So what is the road now to the Pact for Skills? As I said, we will launch a consultation to preparation of the charter. This will cover the period July-September. So you will have an opportunity to make comment and make proposal there. We are also consulting with stakeholders to identify possible action to support further the establishment of large-scale multi-stakeholder partnership. We will discuss with them specific key performance indicators, and we will also initiate roundtable to help at senior level to reach agreement and to prepare for the launch of the Pact for Skills. As I said, the first wave will take place on the 10th of November in Berlin. There will be not only a signature of the Pact, but there will be also a joint declaration with the German presidency. So as a way to show the commitment and participation of the presidency and member states. Please move to the next slide. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, thank you. Here you have the list of the different ecosystem, and what I have done, I have put in blue all those ecosystems where there is an existing or a newly blueprint to be launched in 2021. So it shows that within this 14 ecosystem, there is already 11 blueprints which are active and on which we will build, of course. The only areas where, for the time being, there is no blueprint is health, is retail, and creative industrial industries. So health in particular is an issue. So we will intensify effort, of course, to address this sector, because this is a sector which has been the most visibly affected, obviously, by the COVID crisis. Please move to the next slide. In the communication adopted on the 1st of July, so there is 4 ecosystems which have been listed as a priority target. As I said, health, obviously, construction also, automotive and transport, and tourism. So automotive, as you have seen, construction and tourism, they are already blueprints. In the case of health, we are gathering information to see what can be done in particular. But for the others, there is, of course, a solid basis on which we will capitalize. The only remark that I want to make here is obviously that it's easier for a sector like automotive, where you have large companies, than for construction and tourism, where you have mostly SMEs, to get organized. So this is something that we will have to take into account. And even if we hope that they could be launched by November, it may happen that maybe we will delay a little bit the launch of partnership in some of those sectors, because they need extra time to get organized. So as I said, there won't be only a single window opportunity on the 10th of November. There will be several waves and several opportunities, of course, to join the Pact in 2021, 2022 onwards. Can we move to the next slide? This is a slide that we have created specifically with the perspective, of course, of clusters and cities to show in particular how they could benefit and participate in the Pact for Skills, and the relationship that could be established between these different elements, so clusters, city, the blueprint. We were also highlighting the social economy, because the social economy for us is very important, especially in those current circumstances. And we genuinely believe that we need to have these different elements to come together to have a successful Pact. So we will continue to liaise with you and with the expert group on skills on clusters, to have the opportunities to consider launching dedicated partnership under the skills Pact. So this is something that we will support in the coming weeks and months. Can we move to the next slide, please? Voilà. So this is the roadmap that summarizes a little bit the process. So we are still very much in consultation with stakeholders. This is just starting, actually, because the Pact, presentation of the Pact and the European Skills Agenda were adopted just on the 1st of July, so it's very fresh. So this consultation will cover the periods till the end of September. Launching event will take place on the 10th of November. For us, it's closely linked to also the European Cluster Conference that will take place precisely on that date. It will also take place during the European week of vocational education and training, so that's also a very important communication opportunity. We will organize high-level meetings and roundtable with Commissioner Schmidt and Commissioner Breton and key stakeholders to present and to prepare the first commitment. The priority in the first phase will be on launching this large-scale partnership to really address the need of the labor market and the need of businesses. The second phase will put more emphasis on the other type of commitment, as I say, individual commitment that could be taking place. We will provide support services, so a single entry point when it comes to getting information about funding opportunities to help the different players to know exactly what is the funding available and how to access it. This will be available on web page. And we will definitely come with detailed information about the funding opportunity, because inevitably the investment and the activities will be closely linked to the amount of incentive that can be brought, especially at the European level. There will be a very close monitoring based on these key performance indicators, and there will be a two measure review, so in 2023 and 2025. And the whole thing will be, of course, evaluated, and we keep the opportunity to reshape and change somewhat the elements, depending, of course, on the evolution of the pandemic and the evolution also of the labor market and of the economy. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you want, I'm ready and available to answer your questions.
You are very, very welcome, Andre. Thank you to you. Before opening the floor for everybody, I want to express our interest and also availability from the European Cluster Alliance to collaborate in this area. Okay, I see that your approach is mainly sectoral. Okay, in our experience is that there are a lot of activities that can be reinforced with a cross-sectoral approach. I mean, for example, the exchange of apprenticeship, for example, or digital skills are related to near every sector. Okay, I want to formally tell you that we are at your disposal in this area, and it's a common interest. It's not just a volunteer interest, but I think that it's really our common interest to work on that. So,
okay. Yeah, thank you very much. We are also working on a detailed explanatory note, and we will regularly distribute a document to help preparing the Pact. So you should expect to hear from us on a regular basis in the coming weeks and months, because indeed we believe that not only the ecosystem sectoral value chain aspect is important, but we need, as I said in this on the slide that you precisely display on the screen, we need to address also the other dimension, this regional cross-sectoral aspect, the also dimension related to the Apprenticeship Alliance and the Digital Skills and Job Coalition, which are covering all the sectors and all enterprise of all sizes. So that's why, I mean, there is opportunity to accommodate different type of cooperation for upskilling and reskilling, because there is no single magical formula, obviously.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So now the floor is open for questions and comments for the rest of the attendants. Who is the first? Veronica, I see that you have a comment.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I had one, sorry for my voice. I have one question for Andre. So my point is, do you consider that clusters may have a major role in the large-scale partnerships or in the national, regional, local partnerships? My question is driven by the fact that I'm coordinating a railway cluster. We know that one of the new blueprint partnerships will be on rail technologies.
Yes.
But apparently, the drivers of the partnership will be the major European industrial associations, and we are not sure if they want us in the group. So my question is, how can we lobby ourselves? How can we say to them that EU needs clusters and not just industrial associations in this challenge? Or in case if we have to focus more on our national ecosystems and work at that scale. Thank you.
Yes, I mean that's a very good question, and you're right. I mean the railway sector has been written last year to be part of the blueprint, and it's one of them indeed that will start in 2021. As I said, the blueprint were rather limited in terms of funding, and that's one of the problems is that we can accommodate, of course, everybody and everything. And when it comes to the ecosystem, we never had in mind that there would be a single large-scale partnership that will have a kind of monopoly. No, that's not the case. So the idea is very much to have something which is open, that must be transparent, obviously, and where some of the ecosystem will have several large-scale partnership. If I take as an example automotive, there are no car manufacturing plants everywhere in Europe. So there are some regions which, or if I take microelectronics, there are some regions which are more interested and committed than others. So we will see this aspect where the partnership, they will have to be established at the European level, but in close cooperation with regions. Yeah, I mean, in your case, I think there is also Saxony. There is an important cluster there in Saxony in semiconductors and microelectronics. We will see this combination of European effort in liaison with effort being launched at national, but most importantly, I believe at regional level. But in parallel, it does not exclude the opportunity for having cooperation on a cross-sectoral basis that is building on clusters. So that's also open. Huh? That's open. So this is why, for the time being, we are very receptive and open to discuss with stakeholders to help them to see how this partnership could be established. We have to be pragmatic in the sense that we want to have initiatives which are both scalable and sustainable. So, and as you have seen, we would like already to launch some of them by the 10th of November, which is almost tomorrow. I mean, that will go very fast. So this is why I encourage you very much to explore and discuss with possible partners what could be done, and to communicate and liaise with us on a regular basis, because we will, of course, be very keen to answer to questions and facilitate preparatory meeting. And this will not just be, of course, DG Grow, but the different Commission services and DG Employment, because on this specific Pact for Skills, DG Grow and DG Employment are in the lead. So we will try to make our best effort to facilitate this.
I think that you have opened a very interesting question, Veronica, and it's I think it's clear that there are some forces that are very strong in this area, okay, and that are reluctant to open for new players, okay, and we clusters are new players in this field for them, because in fact we have been working for years and years and years, but not with the recognition of the as official agents. So I totally understand your approach, Victoria. I can offer you our umbrella, the umbrella of the European Cluster Alliance. Okay.
Indeed, I thank you very much for both Andre for the very interesting and important answer, and you, Antonio, for the availability, and yes, of course. Just to say that one of the key words that Andre said is SMEs. So the idea is that my idea of cluster and the main difference between clusters and big industry associations is that the clusters are built on SMEs. Of course, we have leaders, industrial leaders inside, but most of our job is to help leverage SMEs. Also now with this pact, we would like to work also on the skills side. So the idea is that, of course, it's key that the big leaders can identify the driving changes in skills for the future. But at the very end, if you wanted to cover the entire value chain, you need also SMEs.
Yes.
So that's it.
Especially,
No, it's very important,
sorry,
and I fully agree with that.
Sorry, Andre, finish. Andre,
No,
sorry.
I think it's very important what has just been said, and we will ensure that the benefits are also widely shared, and especially with small and medium-sized enterprise, because they are those who have the greatest difficulties to acquire, recruit talent, and also to fund training. So no, that's an important remark.
Yeah, and our experience is that we are linking big and small companies. I need to say that, okay? We are not linking only SMEs, but our experience is that our SMEs who most need our capacities to create the critical mass needed for advanced training, for example. And that's our key role. And that role is not covered by the current mechanisms. And so I totally agree with the approach from Veronica. And perhaps we could support Veronica through an internal work group on skills, or perhaps we could even create national skills work groups. I don't know. We need to think about that. But Veronica, you are invited to participate in the designing of how to best support from our organization, the European Cluster Alliance, the needs of our clusters across Europe.
Thanks, Antonio.
Antonio, may I say something? Lucia here.
Hi, Lucia. Yes, for sure. Welcome.
I would like to bring into the equation probably to what kind of clusters we should be looking at. Because I think that in this case, particularly Veronica, what you rightfully questioned, the role of clusters versus large association, industrial association. I think here we should mobilize as well the large cluster organization, and I think size plays here an important role, because sometimes if the cluster organization is literally rather limited in outreach to a certain industry, let's say if it has somewhere around just 50 members, it will be very difficult to position itself as outreach to the larger SME pool existing in the industry there. So I think here that the target groups or the clusters that should be involved in these activities, like you mentioned, Antonio, the working group, should be those who are able to demonstrate very quickly and act as pioneers and leaders, and showing that they can have an impact to a larger part of the industrial tissue, particularly the SMEs. I think we should not lose the size out of the sight.
Yeah, the reality is that the classical associations doesn't limit their training or their activity to their members. So they provide training of activities that is upskilling for everyone, okay? As far as I know, most of them. And we can do the same, and we are doing the same, in fact, okay? So a cluster doesn't need to limit the training session or masters or whatever agreement reached for just to their members. That's, in my point of view, is a mistake. Perhaps we need to create some guidelines or programs to demonstrate how clusters can work in this field.
Yes, indeed. So thinking cross-sectorial for the power the clusters can bring in rolling out the upskilling and reskilling across sectors through the associations.
Yes, Antonio, if you allow me to comment on this, what has been said regarding the importance of cross-sectors cooperation to help, I think I was mentioning this at the beginning, the transition of some people from one sector to the other, because we see this shift happening. This has been very much supported and welcomed by European business associations like the European Roundtable of Industrialists. And these people have made already proposal, and I'm quite sure that they will be happy to discuss this with you. In the last meeting of the expert group on clusters and skills, we invited them, I think, and the discussion was very positive. So I'm sure that we can share with you the outcome of this expert group meeting, and also the contact detail and the information which was provided by the European Roundtable of Industrialists. And this ERT group, I mean, you have many large European companies, so that would be certainly something to look at, and synergy to be established with a view to have maybe a dedicated partnership on this aspect.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yes, Antonio, can I say one question to Andrea, very quick? Andrea, what do you think it will be the role of the schools and of the universities in this skilling agenda?
There is also, you should know, a recommendation on vocational education and training which has been made. There will be also among the flagship increase focus on discussing, sharing, reviewing, in particular with the European semester, national skill strategy, and to also increase the resource which are allocated to vocational education and training. Because when you look about the budget and the investment which have been made by member states in formal initial education and vocational education and training, you see that there is an imbalance. So we want, of course, to preserve the investment which is made by formal education system, but we want to see how we can scale up the investment for vocational education and training. We are introducing this idea of individual learning account, which seems to work quite well in France. But the problem is not just to have only the money, it's also to have the guidance, the counseling, the assessment of the skills needs, etc. So I think certainly one of the revolution that needs to happen is when it comes to vocational education and training, when it comes to better and more obvious benefit being provided by training and by learning solution, we will see certainly an explosion of online training opportunities. So, I mean, this is here where we can see for the existing workforce, because the main problem is obviously for the people who are there. I mean, the digital and green transition, it has to be done with people who are already on the jobs. Specifically on schools, as you mentioned, there will be a dedicated action plan on digital skills in education. So both to strengthen the capacity of the education system, and we have all seen that teachers and the infrastructure itself was not always, especially in rural areas, to the level which was deemed appropriate. And also to improve the relevance and the opportunity of training, and to use formal education, because all the children are going through this, to get all the children with the necessary digital skills to join the workforce. But this digital education action plan, it will be adopted beginning of September. So there is already an open consultation on that.
If I could come in onto this, Antonio, because particularly on the role of clusters, And I think it's a very good idea, which was said, that you would need within the European Cluster Alliance a working group. And because if I take now the example of the automotive, the fact that we have managed, Joanna, my colleague who is responsible in DG Grow for the automotive sector, she joined your meeting. She has followed up with the Automotive Clusters Network. They are in discussion. And that is a way, because now we are planning these next steps for the partnerships, which will be roundtables with the two commissioners. And Joanna is planning to have the representative of the clusters in this round table. So there it worked and has a, let's say, a direct benefit that we could make this link. So we would need to do it then also for the other ecosystems. And that's why it would be a good idea to think how we can do this. This is just a very concrete thing where it worked, and we could repeat this kind of success.
Thank you, Ula. What I see, speaking about ecosystem, is that digital is not one of the blueprints. I understand that is spread across the different blueprints, okay? But in fact, digital also has a need for qualification. Or at least, sorry, I see that here.
Yeah, but you're right, and that's why Andre has also presented the Digital Skills and Job Coalition. So, as you said, digital is so vast as a field. There is a specific measure which is included in the Pact.
Okay, thank you, We will work on that. I see that Carla Jimenez has a question. Carla.
Yes, hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the very interesting presentation. I work for the automotive cluster in Galicia, in the northwest of Spain. I have been working specifically in training for our company members for over 10 years. And over and over, we always find the same problem, is that regardless of how the funding is set, always the big companies end up benefiting from the funding because they have resources internally to handle all the, if I can call it, bureaucracy. While the small and medium enterprises, they struggle to either because they don't have the resource internally to access to it, or either because they are so small that they don't have like critical mass. So I really think that the clusters here play a very important role. Whenever we have the chance to access to certain program that we can handle for a certain number of companies, normally it's very successful, and the small and medium enterprises participate quite a lot. But when it goes directly to them, they don't access to it. It's always the big companies benefiting from it. That's one problem. Another problem is that I see many initiatives focused to unemployed people, which is perfect, obviously, but I don't see so many resources allocated to workers, current workers. And when we're talking about reskilling and upskilling, I see there's a big need there in the companies. And I'm happy and open and willing to collaborate in any group, working group, or discussion or forum that you might have open through Antonio's group or whatever, to kind of try to add our views and to try to add value and share where we can. So I thank you for the initiative, and I'm happy to help in anything. Just want to say that. Thanks.
Thank you, Carla. You are really a reference on this area. What you are doing from CA is strong, recognized, and excellent.
Thank you, Antonio.
More contributions.
Hi. Can I?
For sure.
Hi. I think it will be like a testimony, maybe. I'm Marta Ferreira Dias from Portugal. I'm a researcher in the University of Aveiro, and we are working presently in an observatory of employment in innovative urban action with the municipality and other partners. And at this point, we are evaluating which are the gaps on competences for digital transformation in the region. And we are using workshops and focus group. Is focused in 3 sectors: industry, tourism, and IT services. And one of the conclusions that we got at this point was exactly one that someone said before, the one on that digital skills are transversal to everyone, and especially to upskill the employers. So we are also worried about that, not only the new people that is coming, but also to upscale. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Marta. And that's the reality. Digital is across. And that's why I am a little worried about the approach by sector, because it's true that you, I don't know.
And I mean, was a way of approaching them, especially, of course, it was on the submission, but I think with this Corona situation was the best strategy also, because I think even if there's collaborative events like this one, and thank you for welcoming me, I think firms also close a bit more on them just to solve their problems, so it was easier to reach them in this way. But I think it's common to everyone, so now we are finding out the ways for and the ways to upscaling and to qualify, and also finding out that some of the programs that we are proposing are transversal inside the firm, and also between firms and sectors.
The problem is the creation of critical mass, especially if we are speaking about really advanced technologies. And I will give a concrete example, okay, a very concrete example. Here in Aragon, we are now developing a project for preparing people to use Amazon services, cloud services, okay? And the difficulty is to get enough people. There are very few people with enough qualifications to really learn the skills, not just to work, okay, learn. So if we try to do that just from a sectoral approach, it's impossible. Because if we look just for one sector, we will not get the critical mass. We have problems just approaching it with all the sectors involved, okay? And we are working now for training this year, something like 125 young people on Amazon cloud services, okay? And that's the comment, okay?
Perhaps, no, true.
Can
I
say something?
Yeah.
Well, I think that again, clusters. We should look at the clusters not only as entity isolated, but clusters, at least in some countries, like in Portugal, they are all also organized in terms of partnerships. So, for instance, this question of skills was also a subject that was mentioned in a meeting that we have yesterday from Portugal clusters. And the idea is, in fact, to identify the needs of each sector, but at the same time, to see how the different clusters can help the other ones. So we should look at the clusters not only as an entity by themselves, but also they are organized in associations, and through that they can overcome the problems that you are mentioned. And in fact, we are doing that. So it's another strength that in fact the clusters have.
Totally agree. Thanks, Vasco. Okay, More comments, more questions. We have 2 minutes.
Antonio, I just put something which could be practical for clusters as well. We see how we could use it. There was the renewed Europass, and there are new functionalities on this web page. I put on the chat, so the people can put exactly how they what the skills are across. There's the European Employment Service portal, which I mean, in beautiful world, we would have this the pool of this talents with clusters, so that the mobility could be. But I think this is the platform available. Maybe clusters could use this platform as well. So just from the something which could be easily already. It was launched this week. This new functionality. So maybe European Cluster Alliance, you could think food for thought how we could use this. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much, Marek. We will study it for sure. The problem is that we are competing for people, so it's quite a complex situation. Okay, we generally speaking, companies doesn't want to share information about the possible employers. You know,
there's another point that may open to more education, more skilling, at least to get rid of lobbies that are closed. One of those things are the legislation. For instance, there is the compulsory number of hours of training, at least in Portugal, that companies have to provide to their employees. But only certain types of formalized education are considered in this number. For instance, I am in a very disruptive kind of business, so I have to provide different types of education to my people. Most of it is organized internally, and it does not count. So I'm always failing on the legal side, although I'm providing a lot of education, and it's digital too. So those groups are so close that they protect themselves, and the law allows that.
I totally agree with that. It's a reality. Okay, so it has been very interesting. I repeat our formal expression of interest on participating in this new Pact for Skills and to work on it. I think it's a common interest of clusters. It's a very important area. So we continue working on it. Thank you very much to everyone. Have a very, very nice weekend. Bye. See you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you. Have a nice day all. Thank you.